Hey everybody, welcome back to the Clean Techies podcast. It's Silas Maynor, your favorite clean tech headhunter. All right, it's Thanksgiving week. There is no normal episode today. It's just me. I'm going to be shooting solo here, and mainly because a lot of people don't really listen to the full podcast on Thanksgiving. So I still wanted to show a little bit of my gratitude because this past year has been truly, truly amazing for us. There's a couple announcements as well. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit of the inner workings of the podcast or what we've got up our sleeves, stay here for those announcements and then some words of gratitude at the end. So let's start with the announcements. First one, kind of the elephant in the room. If you have been watching, you probably noticed that Somil has not been around much. That's because Somil ended up taking a new job in the AI space. So he got a job with Decagon. Somebody reached out and he got a really incredible offer to go with a great company that's growing very rapidly. So he's advancing his product management career there. It's pretty sad for us. I'm not going to lie. I have to say a quick word of thanks. Somil, when he joined this project, we were putting out content. It was fine. But when he joined, it really helped us kick into high gear, mainly because having a kind of a partner in the project really helps sharpen you. It makes you like, we've both got goals. We've both committed to doing this. And for me personally, having somebody else that I'm accountable to make sure I'm holding up my end of the bargain has always been helpful. So when he joined, from then until now, we've grown a lot in the listenership, but just generally on how we do things, the type of content we create. So I really have to give a lot of credit and thanks to Somal for being part of this journey for that time. It's again very sad to see him go. It's harder. It's been harder these past few weeks to manage the burden of producing the podcast on my own, but we'll make it happen. I've hired a couple of the extra teammates to help make this work, and we're continuing to move forward in the future. So if you want to learn more about Somo's journey, we may end up doing a podcast episode about it at some point, but I would recommend reaching out to him and getting his DMs. I'm sure he'd love to make some time in between his busy schedule to talk with you about it and tell you more. But it's really exciting chapter for him, even though it means the parting of ways for us, at least on the podcast front of things. And what this means is that Earth Search, the company that I run, has actually acquired the podcast and just brought it on in-house, so everything's under one P&L. Makes it easier for me. If you are following for a while, or if you have been following, you'll know that the company I run is called Earth Tech Talent, but we recently rebranded to Earth Search. So we do recruitment for clean tech startups, and we charge about half the price of other firms. I've been doing this for 5.5 years, but started my own firm about a year and a half ago. So we're going to bring this inside. The content itself of what we're doing with the podcast won't really change. We are exploring doing some other innovative type of things where we may focus more on the conversations around hiring and talent and team building. We've obviously had those as part of the interviews, but we might do a couple deep dives. So if you do have any feedback or requests on different types of content, let me know. But we have a little bit of more resources that we can put behind this now that this is inside of Earth Search as kind of part of the entire operation here. So reach out if you do have any suggestions on that front. Second announcement that we have for you is that we've got a little bit of a surprise coming. I can't tell you much more. Hopefully it will be coming before the end of the year, but we are looking for loyal listeners to give us some feedback on the project itself. So if you'd like early access and would like to give us some feedback, please reach out. You can do that. Reach out to me on LinkedIn in my DMs or send me an email. If you have my phone number, even better, just shoot me a text. We're looking for some early, I guess you could say, adopters or people who are willing to give us some feedback on a new project that we're trying to launch before the end of the year. It's been really busy, and it will continue to be so. But we're hoping to get it out before the end of the year. So reach out if you're interested in that. Number 3, and this is part of the reason I'm going to be so busy, is that my wife and I are actually moving to Nashville. We're going to be moving to Nashville in January, and then we'll be actually traveling all of December, pretty much in New York to visit her family. So number 1, if you're in New York, I'd be glad to try to connect and grab a coffee while I'm there. And then if you have any suggestions for Nashville, or if you're in Nashville, let me know. We can link up once I move there. But what this really means and why I bring this up is the posting will probably be slightly less frequently throughout the holidays and throughout these next couple months as we're packing and moving, just a lot of moving parts. I'll have to rebuild a podcast studio there once we get settled. And any content I do create in the meantime may have a lower audio quality because I won't have my usual setup. So just a heads up on that front. Those are pretty much all the announcements I had. Just want to go through a couple pieces of thanks for this year. So as I look back, and we've been doing this podcast for coming up on 5 years almost, right? I think February will be 5 years of doing the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to build this thing. We could not do it without your support, your listenership, you sharing the podcast, giving us feedback, suggesting guests, all these things. It's really, really been a pleasure. Especially this past year. I mean, we've done some really fun things. We hosted 2 live podcasts, one in Houston Shout out to Energy Tech Nexus for making that happen. Jason and his crew are amazing. If you're in Houston, I highly recommend getting involved with Energy Tech Nexus. They put some amazing events on there. And then we also hosted a live podcast during Climate Week, which we had an amazing crew of people there, amazing panel. And I did host a party in San Francisco for some clean tech entrepreneurs there. So lots of different things have happened this year. We've grown in listenership overall. We've invested a little more heavily into the social media content. So if you aren't already following us on socials, feel free to do so. We post pretty much everywhere. All major platforms we post on. So if you'd like to get some snippets, that's another way to support the show. And also help share the content with others so other people can discover it. But we also want to say that we're really excited for next year, right? All of these changes that are happening, both in the space broadly, but also with the podcast itself, that doesn't mean anything's going down. Like actually, we're going to invest more heavily into the podcast into next year. So as I mentioned before, we really appreciate your support and feedback on new types of content that you'd like to see. But also, I just want to say a word of I guess, encouragement to the space. And I've mentioned this plenty in my other writings and my other content, but clean tech, despite the challenges, is actually going to see, I think, a very large amount of growth in the coming, especially coming year, but coming years broadly, because there's so many amazing founders who have found a way to make really good money. They've found a way to improve the business models of what they're building so that they're saving money and making better products. They're not just going after some green premium kind of frenzy that was really going on for a while. There's really incredible companies that are growing at a rapid pace. And I can tell you this for sure from the hiring side. Many companies are investing heavily in building their teams. What I have noticed is that there are fewer climate tourists, I guess you would say, especially on the hiring side, where there was a lot of people just interested in climate because it was the hot space before AI really started to take off. Climate was the thing everybody was after. It was really hot. It was in the news a lot. And now it's not as much, at least from kind of a normie perspective. They're all seeing all this stuff about AI. So everybody's moving in that direction. And we're seeing less of those kind of like just touristy types of folks applying. But there are still plenty of jobs and openings and growth happening in this space. So I just wanted to say that as a word of encouragement, because a lot of people have been concerned or worried about some of the bad news that's coming down the pipe. But for the most part, I think the space as a whole will grow. It'll obviously change how it's presented in many cases. You won't just hear these companies calling themselves climate tech companies. They'll probably be called something else, efficiency technology or abundance. There'll be many different terms that'll be used, but it won't necessarily always be climate tech. However, it will still continue to grow, and that's what we're seeing as a trend broadly. So just if you were one of those people who's a little more pessimistic about the future, that's my opinion. Again, take it or leave it, what you say. But I talk to a lot of founders all the time. And overall, it's, to me, very exciting to see what's coming down the line. All right, last couple things for you then. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, we do have a couple openings for the first half of next year. If you'd like to become an anchor sponsor, you can reach out to me for more details about what that looks like. But in general, our audience is investors and founders in the clean tech space. Most of our listenership is in the US. We do have a bunch in Europe as well, some in Asia, primarily the US, and then Europe close behind. So if you're looking to sell to founders or investors, this is probably the best, one of the best podcasts or methods to do so, to just get in their ear on a regular basis. And with this, I also want to shout out Climate Finance Solutions for being our current anchor sponsor. They help clean tech startups to raise grant funding to identify, apply, and win grant funding opportunities. And they've done this since 2020. They've raised $1.6 billion in grant funding for the space already, and they have a very high success rate at actually landing the grants that they choose to apply for. So shout out to them. If you'd like to join them as an anchor sponsor for the show, you can do so, or just reach out to me, info@cleantechiespodcast, and we can discuss rates and go from there. Finally, we really hope to see you at the Climate Hack Summit, which is happening December 10th and 11th in New York City at New Lab. We will be there creating content and hanging out with our past podcast guests and friends there. It's going to be a really great gathering of like 500 investors, founders, and ecosystem supporters for the climate deep tech space. So especially if you're interested in that deep innovation, this is going to be a space for you. So with that, thank you so much, everybody. It's been a really incredible year for us. It's a perfect time to give thanks on Thanksgiving. We hope that you have had a great year as well. Even if you've had a tough year, I still, encourage you, find some opportunities to give thanks and to have gratitude, because gratitude really helps you move forward in life. At least that's my personal experience, right? Every time you find something to be grateful for, the world tends to help you out. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week on Clean Techies.